Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to another Sentinel vlog. Before we begin properly, I just want to put this out of the way. This is actually a replacement video. I originally had plans to review the recent Third Doctor Adventures release from Big Finish, Revolution in Space, but ultimately things kind of fell through. I just never found the time to do it. On top of that, I kind of noticed something whenever I try to talk about the Third Doctor Adventures range from Big Finish. I just never have a lot to say. Like, if you're curious, I did try this once before. Go through my videos and watch my review of Part 5. I struggle. Part 5. Watch my review of the Third Doctor Adventures Volume 5. I really struggle with that one. Long story short, Revolution in Space is good. I just never have a lot to say about the Third Doctor Adventures range. It's good. It is really good. Repeatedly, I think in terms of consistent quality, it is Big Finish's best range. So in its place, I decided to do something different. As you saw from the title and thumbnail, today we are going to be talking about the Doctor Who antagonist, the Monk, or the Meddling Monk, or the Time Meddler, because there is a facet of the Doctor Who fandom who believes the Monk should not be called the Monk, and that is a debate we are not going to get into. The Monk has sort of a special place in Doctor Who history. He was the show's very first Time Lord villain, even predating the Master. So I thought it would be fun to kind of go through the Monk's incarnations and rank them, like I did with the Doctor, my favorite companions, or the incarnations of the Master. Hopefully this will be a bit of a shorter video because at the time of recording this, Monday, February 19th, there is only 4 incarnations to talk about. And, I also think I wanted to do this for a while too, because I think the Monk is a very fascinating character. Like the other Time Lord villains, he inhabits a particular villain archetype. Like the Master is the arch foe, the Ronnie is the mad scientist, the Valyard is the evil twin. The Monk is the trickster, He doesn't set out to be malicious. Just, he doesn't see the repercussions of what he's doing. More so, his goal is not to be malicious. It is just to cause chaos. Or put another way, just his ideas clash with the protagonist's ideas. That is kind of what the trickster archetype is, and that is what the Monk is. It's also kind of interesting, too, because I think a lot of people say that the Master and the Doctor are sort of two sides of the same coin. But honestly, I think the Monk is far more accurate a statement to that. Like, because he similarly travels through time and space like the Doctor. He has no grand designs, again, like the Master or the Ronnie. He's just really sort of out for himself, and there's this sense of exploration to the monk that I think like he has in common with the Doctor. So you know how ranking videos work. Everything presented is my own opinion. You are perfectly free to disagree. Feel free to start a conversation in the comments. So with all that out of the way, let's just get started. Kicking us off at the bottom of the list, number 4, the one who started it all, Peter Butterworth. To date, Peter Butterworth is the only incarnation of the Monk to have appeared in the TV show itself. He was the main antagonist of the William Hartnell story, The Time Meddler, and he had a brief subplot in another William Hartnell story, The Daleks' Master Plan. I think why I rank Peter Butterworth so low myself is because he was one of the last incarnations of the Monk I saw. I think if he was one of the first ones I'd seen, or if I'd seen him earlier when I was getting into Doctor Who, he might rank higher. I don't have any issues with him. In fact, I really like the Time Meddler. It is one of my top 5 favorite William Hartnell stories. It might actually be my second favorite after The Massacre, but Peter Butterworth is really good. But just, again, because I started with some of the later monks, I've seen so much more you can do with the character. Like, almost in a way, Peter Butterworth's monk is kind of a blank slate. Like, he is the springboard from which the other incarnations come from. Like, you see his characterization in all the other incarnations of the monk, plus the other actors' own spins on it. You know, they've added stuff to the Butterworth characterization. They've changed stuff to it. One thing I really like about Peter Butterworth in particular is he has this innocence to him. You know, he's not, again, like I said in the introduction, he is not doing this to be, and I am speaking specifically about the Time Meddler now, his only major story, because again, he has a subplot slash cameo in the Daleks' master plan. He is not doing this to be malicious. He just honestly believes that history, that the timeline would have been better if the outcome of this decisive battle was changed. You know, and really, the Time Meddler in particular is also where my initial thought came from of, it's not the Doctor and the Master that are two sides of the same coin. It is really the Doctor and the monk. Number 3, Rufus Hound. Rufus Hound at the moment is the most recurring monk. Whenever he is a Big Finish incarnate, well, actually, now the rest of them are Big Finish incarnations, but he is an incarnation of the monk that it seems like whenever Big Finish does a monk story, he is the one who is going to be in it. This also makes the monks, unlike the Doctor and the Master, this also kind of makes the monk's timeline an absolute nightmare. The Rufus Hound monk has met the first Doctor, the second Doctor, the third Doctor, the fourth Doctor, the seventh Doctor, the eighth Doctor, the War Doctor. And I think that's kind of part of why he has this position on the list. It's just, they keep using him. And I mean, I'm sure part of it is scheduling, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm sure the other actors who have played the monk are busy and can't come back to the role at the moment, but it's just, Rufus Hound is kind of getting stale, or at least his stories are, because Rufus Hound is great. Even in Rufus Hound monk stories I don't like, Rufus Hound is still a standout because his performance is that good. There is also this thing where Rufus Hound's monk seems to be much more villainous. Like, or at the very least, if villainous isn't the right word, much more selfish. Like, going back to Peter Butterworth, he was kind of guided by this sense of altruism. Like, again, he just thought that if things went differently in certain timelines and certain events, things would be better. Whereas the Rufus Hound monk is much more selfish. He's in it for profit. He is in it for gain. And it's just, something doesn't entirely click with me with the Hound monk. And I think it is just how much more antagonistic he is. Like, we will, like, next up, we will be talking about a monk who does similarly have more antagonistic motives. But I do think that one does it a little better. Just, yeah, Rufus Hound. Big Finish keeps using him, and he's kind of just wearing out his welcome, really. Still fun. Rufus Hound is a fantastic performer, but just, he's just getting kind of stale with me. Number 2, Graham Garden. I have a soft spot for the Graham Garden monk because he was really my first incarnation of the monk. He is the one that introduced me to the character. So, and I think regardless of your overall thoughts, you know, depending on where you go in the Doctor Who fandom, I think you are always going to have a soft spot for your first. Like, take me, for example, just to use another example, Clara Oswald. The fandom sort of, at least from what I've seen, tends to regard her as one of the worst companions the show has ever had. But when I first started watching the show, she was my first companion, so I have a soft spot for her. And it's the same thing with the Graham Garden monk. Not that he's reviled like Clara is. He's not. There are people who like him. It's just, he was the first incarnation of the monk I ever encountered, so I have a major soft spot for him. Like I kind of hinted at Rufus Hound, the Graham Garden monk is much more antagonistic, but I feel like it comes off in a way that works for the character of the monk. Where I feel like Hound at times is a little more villainous. You can kind of understand the garden monk's motivations. Like, it feels like this particular incarnation of the monk comes right off the this is me speculating and throwing out my headcanons now, but it feels like the Graham Garden incarnation of the monk comes right off the heels of the events of the Daleks' master plan and the monk's subplot in that. Like, I've only heard the Dalek master plan once. I am way overdue to re-listen to it because I do the radio reconstruction. But if memory serves, that subplot ends with the monk being stranded, and you really kind of feel the resentment from that in the garden monk. Like, I think the first story he shows up in, the Book of Kells, he is actually trying to get his TARDIS fixed. So there is this antagonism, like Rufus Hound, but you sort of understand where it's coming from. The Doctor stranded him, so he kind of resents the Doctor. And then after the 8th Doctor stuff, he shows up again encountering the 5th Doctor in The Secret History, a story I already reviewed when I reviewed the Locum Doctors trilogy. And it's the same thing. He is much more antagonistic, but it's because he's angry about events he feels the Doctor was responsible for. There's not a lot more to say about the Graham Garden monk, because beyond, just his additional motivations and this slight pivot of his character more towards antagonism, a pivot that works much better than I think it does for Rufus Hound, he is just kind of an extension of Peter Butterworth. And we've reached the end of our list, but I'm going to hold off for a little bit and build up to it. Number 1. No, not yet. So when it comes to meddling, there's none better. Number 1, my favorite incarnation of the monk, the meddling nun, Gemma Wheelan. To date, Gemma Wheelan has only appeared in 2 stories. She appeared in part 1 of the big 10th Doctor epic Dalek Universe, and she has appeared in Missy Series 3. And in just those 2 stories, she has left such an impression. Gemma Wheelan's performance in particular is amazing. There is a zaniness to it, a quirkiness to it. I feel like in the Doctor Who fandom, quirky's a dirty word, but Wheelan makes it work. Like, in my introduction, I talked about how the monk is a trickster, and, the trickster archetype is not so much meant to be villainous, just more chaotic. And out of all incarnations of the monk, Gemma Wheelan is just a chaos gremlin, and it is glorious to experience. Like, she is the most unhinged incarnation of the monk. Like, it's obvious she doesn't really care about the repercussions of what she's doing. She's just doing it because it's fun. And it's the chaos that the monk generally tends to cause, but dialed up to 11 because she seems to know just how chaotic she is. It's like, if you haven't heard either of her stories, fix that. Like, Missy Series 3 is a little more self-contained than Dalek Universe, so that might be the better one to go with, but she is absolutely fantastic, and I am so glad I am posting this right after the announcement of Big Finish's new spin-off epic series, Dark Gallifrey, because we are finally getting more of the Gemma Wheelan monk. I cannot wait. And there you have it, my ranking for the incarnations of the monk. What are yours? Who is your favorite monk? Who is your least favorite? Why? Start a friendly conversation in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload, share the video around, all of it helps my channel grow, and in the description box below, you will find the link to my social medias where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.